Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole, and I am excited about my guest today. I saw her a couple weeks ago at a huge opening in Grand Central Station for, I think it's her fifth restaurant at this point. Let me tell you about her. And I was thinking, what might you think that Harlem, comfort food, and community service have in common? It is this amazing woman, Melba Wilson. She is a successful restaurateur, chef, soul food connoisseur, Food Network personality, author, and philanthropist. She is famously known for her restaurant in Harlem, Melba's, and that's just one from her ever-growing restaurant empire, which now consists of 5 locations and a catering service. So in addition from her restaurants, you can also find her on talk shows like The View, The Today Show, or going head to head with other renowned chefs like Bobby Flay, or judging various cooking competitions. She is busy. Now, as a born, bred, and buttered Harlem native, that's what she likes to say, Melba Wilson is a pillar in her community, in our community. We are right in the same community together. And while food sits at the forefront of many of her achievements, she also caters to her community in other ways. She serves on the board of directors for Opportunity Charter School. She's an advocate for Girl Scouts of America and the New York Women's Foundation. And she actively supports organizations like God's Love We Deliver, which delivers meals to individuals with severe illnesses. During the pandemic, many of you may have seen her on all of the major news outlets. She was front and center, making sure that frontline workers, hospital workers, restaurant workers, others, people in need were able to eat. She provided more than 200,000 free meals to senior citizens, frontline workers, and more. These are some amazing efforts. She is that woman. Let's give a very warm welcome to the incredible Melba Wilson.
Hi.
Melba, you are busy.
I'm listening and I'm like, who is she talking about? You know, we, especially as women, I think that we volley a lot, right? Like you say, oh, that's a pretty dress. Oh, I love your hair. You know, um, instead of sometimes just saying thank you.
Yes. Yes.
And to hear all of that, it's overwhelming. And I must sleep a lot, but I know I really don't. I'll have a lot of time to sleep when I expire, when I transition out to the next life, Harriet.
You know what? I think for people who are busy and focused on goals, often our plates are full and there are so many things that we are doing. And I know for me, sometimes I don't even realize it. But
Right.
then if I make that list, but my mother says, count your blessings, write them down, and you go,
Yes.
oh, okay. Wow, okay.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I felt just now hearing you. I'm a horse with blinders on, always
Right.
looking straight ahead. You know, we never look to the left or to the right. We look straight in front of us to see what else we can do, how else we can serve, and what else is there to do. So thank you for
Yeah,
having me on.
of course, absolutely. I was thinking when I went to the grand opening of Melba's in Grand Central Station. I mean, first of all, for anybody who's been to Grand Central Station, it is grand. It is huge. Thousands and thousands of people are in that space every single day. And to see your restaurant there, it just, I mean, it made us all proud, but also, Melba, and this is what I wanted to get at, the coalition of people who came to support you. There were people of the clergy, every type of clergy. There were political people who work in the government. There are people who work in different nonprofits, chefs from everywhere, community leaders, celebrities. I mean, it was just a potpourri of support. And I want you to talk about that coalition building a little bit because people who listen to Dreamleapers, I'm hoping they're people who are looking to manifest their dreams. And one of the things I think is so important is to understand you don't do it alone and that you do need to build relationships with others. Can you talk about how you do that?
Sure. Well, you just said it. My favorite word in the world is relationships, because
Mhm.
truly that's what it's about. When I say, or a lot of us will say, my net worth is my network. I make it a point to have great relationships with people, because no man is an island. You know, I can do pretty much every job in the restaurant. However, I can't do them all at the same time. I can't do them simultaneously. So it does take a team, and it's the team that makes us stronger. Even though it's my name out there, it's so not about me. It's always about we.
Mhm.
And I always say the most important person in the restaurant is my dishwasher.
Haha.
It's the person that doesn't always get the praise, is not in the forefront. But guess what, Harriet? If someone's not back there washing those dishes, I can't cook. The bartender can't make any beverages, and the server is not going to make any money. So, it's all about starting at the bottom, but also paying attention to the people that are behind the scenes. They're the ones that really make this happen. And I learned a long time ago, when I was 9 years old, from Ophelia DeVore, the great Ophelia DeVore, who took me in and had me as her other daughter, and who just taught me the power of manifestation, as you said earlier. Miss DeVore had me reading books like Magic of the Mind,
Mm.
Power of Positive Thinking, Think and Go Rich, Think and Grow Rich. And this is way back when.
Great.
So I knew at an early age that it was all about the team. It wasn't about me. It was about we.
And I'm curious about the coalition of spiritual leaders. There was a priest, there was a minister, there was a rabbi. How did you build relationships with people of such different uh, ways of worshiping?
Well, Harriet, all I had was a dollar and a dream. So it's always been bigger than me. And I always knew that there was a guiding power. It's interesting. The name of your show is called Dreamleapers.
Yep.
And one of my favorite quotes of all times is a quote by Harriet Tubman, where she says, every dream begins with a dreamer.
Mm.
And so I've always been a dreamer. And the spiritual part of me has been something that I've had to lean into often, time and time and time again. Stepping out on faith. There's one thing to say we step out on faith, there's a whole other thing to do it. And so I've always sought the advice of my spiritual leaders. I attend Reverend Johnny Green's church, the Mount Nebo Baptist Church,
Yep.
right here in Harlem. And I know I can pick up the phone and call Reverend Green. And I'm there at 9:30 on Sundays. At 5:30, most Sundays, I'm at Blessed Sacrament, where Father Nolan, is the priest there. Because sometimes I need it twice a day, girl. This ain't easy.
Understood.
The thing that we do is not easy. Um, and then Rabbi Potasnik, who's the vice president for the Board of Rabbis, is a dear friend that I can pick up the phone and call upon.
Mm.
And I need that. And I'm
Sure.
not ashamed of needing that. And I know that it's only because of my faith and the people that I have praying for me and with me that I am able to reach my goals and to have on that coat of armor. Because I tell all three of them, say my name.
Yes.
My grandmother used to say my name. When you go to the Lord in prayer, say my name. Okay. We have to
It's
be specific
powerful.
in our prayers, right?
It's powerful. And I know that you have a lot of family wisdom, mama's wisdom. There is a famous story that I want you to tell because it's just so good. This notion of when you have a dream, how do you finance that dream? So, not that we're necessarily telling people to do this particular thing, but it worked for you. How did you amass the seed money for your business?
Well, so my family's from the South. We ain't
Yeah.
even, we're not from the South. We're from the South with an F. Okay,
Right.
we're from a very small town called Hemingway, South Carolina. Even though I was born, bred, and buttered here in Harlem, when school ended, Harriet, June 26th, 24th, whatever it was, we all got in the car and we took the 11, 12-hour drive to South Carolina. And it was when I would get to my grandmother's home that she and my grandfather, they had a farm. And so my brothers and sisters would go and play with the other siblings. Well, I would hang out with my grandmother. We go in the garden, we pick greens, beans, tomatoes, potatoes, you name it.
Yep.
But then I would often watch my grandmother take money that my grandfather would give her because she was a stay-at-home mom. And every Friday, she would put some under the mattress. He would give her the money to pay bills. She would put some under the mattress. My mom, stay-at-home mom, 3 kids, dad would go to work. What did my mother do? She put money pay the bills, put money under the mattress. What did I do? We mimic the things that we see. I put money under the mattress. I was on a flight and the flight attendant said, in case of an emergency, put on your mask first. And I looked at myself and I said, Melba, what are you doing to take care of your community? How are you showing up for Harlem? Back then, as you know, 114th Street was one of the most notorious drug-ridden blocks in Harlem. In the middle of that block, there's a school, Wadley.
There is.
So kids coming from Adam Clayton Powell, aka 7th Avenue, or from 8th Avenue, aka Frederick Douglass Boulevard, before they even got to school, they had to witness drug deals happening. They had to witness people shooting up. They had to witness people smoking crack. And that bothered me. And then you have to go to school and learn. That really bothered me. And so I was walking by one day and there was a for rent sale sign on 114th Street and 8th Avenue. Voila, went home, started counting my money, had no clue as to how much it was, went under my mattress, which I at the time called First National Mattress Bank.
I love it.
Harriet, girl, I started counting, then I got scared. I thought it would be about $7,000, $8,000. It was,
which is a lot.
Yeah, which is a lot. It was $312,000.
Wow.
Mainly in tens and fives.
That's all right.
And then I got
amazing, Melba. I mean, this is truly amazing that you were first of all, you were that disciplined, and there it was, because it is so hard to start a business.
It is.
And it's very difficult to get seed money. And in a restaurant, you have to have money.
It's not happening. Banks very seldom fund restaurants and jewelry stores. 1 in every 5 fail. So it is a risky business, and banks don't typically lend to restaurants. So I knew I was going to have a hard time. So I said, let me see how much money I've saved. At least I can start the business with that. But I had no clue as to how much it was, and truly a blessing from God. Truly.
That's such a good story. And, I just think of people, if you are going to put your money under your mattress, just make sure you don't tell people.
Don't tell people. Don't tell. But Harriet, for people that are listening and watching, I now bank at more reputable establishments. So don't come over my house, going in my bedroom and looking for any money. There's none there.
Right. But so at that opening at Melba's Grand Central, there were bankers and also an organization that what was that organization that
and
what's it called?
True Fund.
Tell us about that. Oh
my God. So if you're a new business, a young business, and you're not bankable, okay? And what I mean by bankable, meaning that you've gone to the bank, you've tried to get a loan, and you are unable to do so. There are organizations like True Fund, who I swear by, who will lend you money if you have the right paperwork. And True Fund took a chance on me. They really took a chance on me. And when I wanted to expand, they loaned me money, as well as the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. I've never missed a payment, never been late with a payment. But these are things that help you establish your business and build up your credit as a business.
That's great.
So
Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking to Melba Wilson of Melba's Restaurant. Melba, five? Are there five Melbas now?
there is Melba's in Harlem, which has
Right.
been there 20 years this year,
That's
Harriet. Oh my
so
God.
amazing.
I can't even believe it.
Oh,
It's
I
like I
know.
blinked and where did the time go? Melba's Catering, which is also 20 years old.
Mhm.
There's Melba's in Central Park over Woolman Rink, which has been there 3 years. There's Melba's in the Prudential Center, which has
Right.
been there almost a year and a half now. And so that's what
In Grand Central.
Grand Central, which has been here 2 weeks. And then I'm opening in October in on Broad Street in Newark, New Jersey.
Good.
And as you know, I have a space on 118th Street. So we're looking to open that this year as well. It was originally supposed to be a mussel restaurant that was supposed to open March 2020. And
Oh,
we all know what happened. Yeah, I should have
so
played lotto that day.
so let's talk about that, what the pandemic and all that happened. I, of course, have known you for many years and am a Harlem resident, know you as Melba's Restaurant. I think a lot of people were introduced to you as an advocate for the community in a different way when the pandemic hit, because you were then on every major news network. I think weren't you overseeing the hospitality
Yes, I was the
division?
president, first female and the first person of color to be president of the New York City Hospitality Alliance. However, I was elected prior to the pandemic. I was
Okay,
elected in 2019.
okay.
Yes.
And so you became a really important voice talking about taking care of people and feeding people. And I think that nationally you were talking about this, and it was very important. Why was it so important to you? And can you tell us what you were able to do during that time?
Yeah. Wow, the pandemic. We live in New York.
Mm.
When you hear something like this is happening, it was unbelievable. I didn't believe it. I remembered getting the call that the city was going to shut down. And I'm like, New York City shut down?
Right.
Like, we're 24 hours, 7 days a week. And if we could make it 8 day, we would just for New York. So when I heard it, I honestly didn't believe it. But I had gotten a call from Marcus Samuelson, who I've known godly probably since I'm like 22 years old. And Marcus said to me, Melba, this pandemic thing is real. You got to be careful. You can't be hugging people because I know you like to hug people. And so I had heard, through the mayor's office, a few different people that we were going to have to shut down the city. It was worse than I could have ever imagined. Worse than I could have ever imagined. We're the financial capital of the world. The thing that hurt me the most about the pandemic, Harriet, is because I had 39 employees at the time. Their families, their
Mm.
livelihoods depended upon them getting paid, being able to feed their families, pay their rent from their job at Melba's. And I, for the first time, didn't have an answer. I couldn't say how long it was going to last, how they were going to be affected. I had no answers. And that bothered me because I've always been a source for my team to come to and for me to at least try and solve the problem. And this one I couldn't solve. But what I could do was make sure they had something to eat, make sure the city was fed, do anything that I could. That's what I could do. Food is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
That's right.
It is a necessity. So what did we do? We started reaching out to firsthand responders. We started reaching out to seniors. I'm a huge advocate for senior citizens. I think that oftentimes they're the forgotten gems and jewels. And so I'm always going to advocate for seniors. They pave the way for us to have the opportunities that we have. And they very seldom get the glory or the thank you. So, my grandmother is the one who taught me how to cook. And she, I love my mom, but my grandmother, that was down and dirty. You know what I'm saying? I could go to grandma, tell her anything, and she's going to give me the best advice. Like, that was my homegirl. And so seniors hold a very special place in my heart. We did, I didn't even realize how much food it was. We got a call one day from Adam Silver's office at the NBA saying, every time we turn the television on, you're giving out food. You're on. How many people have you fed? Had no clue. So I called up Reggie Warren, who was our catering director at the time. And I said, Reggie, how many people have we fed? And Reggie said to me, a little over 200,000. It took him a while to go in the catering records and see. And we put everything in the catering records just so we know where it's going to be delivered, who to drop it off to, who to contact. And it was a little bit over 200,000 people.
How were you able to do that? How were you able to afford to do that?
Well, we did. I did a piece on 60 Minutes that went viral. Danny Myers was on it, and Danny had requested that I join him because my story was different than his story, obviously, and which was very, very kind of him to share the spotlight with me. And it was an amazing woman, Nicole, who's a producer. I got a call from her, and just being honest, what they didn't know, Harriette, was that I too had contracted COVID. And the day that I went to tape that segment, it was the third week, and it was my first time being out in 3 weeks.
Oh,
I remember going out, and it looked like Armageddon. I couldn't believe this was New York. They sent a car to pick me up. That's when I don't know, I think we were wearing masks by then, but there was a shield behind the driver, sanitizer, bleach wipes everywhere. Scott, Pele, and I we were distant away from me, like we couldn't even sit next to each other. I had to take a freight elevator. I mean, it was insane. But what scared me is 42nd Street, and I have pictures I have to share with you. There was no one on the street in 42nd Street. I couldn't believe it. Born and raised here, lived here all my life. I've never seen that before.
It was
a scary movie.
It was a scary movie, and it lasted so long. And the fact that you drew upon your goodness, that I know is grounded in the church and grounded in all that you learned from your grandmother and your family to give to other people. It's beautiful things happened during the pandemic, even as horrible things happened. And just the fact that we can communicate using technology, we didn't use these tools for the most part. I mean, they existed, but people didn't use them. And so there's always good that we can find from situations, but you get to see who people truly are during crises. And we are so grateful that you were a leader in this regard to make it clear you're not going to eat if other people can't eat too. You're going to help as much as possible. And it's good to see that. I think it's very good to model that for other people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Harriette. But after we did this 60 Minutes piece, we did get calls. Gail King called and said, Melba, I want to help. What can I do to help? And I said, well, Harlem Hospital, it's a public hospital. I was born there.
Right.
And she was like, let's feed the staff at Harlem Hospital. And I said, that's a blessing, because what it would do, it would help me bring some of my people back to work, as well as feeding the people at the hospital. So we did that. Checks started coming in. We would divvy the checks and give them to the staff. That's what we would do. We would take some of the money, feed the community, and divvy the checks and give them. And then Harry and Meghan came in, and just the generosity of, and they were concerned. They wanted to know how we were surviving. A small restaurant, 100 and I think back then we had 149 seats. Now, how we were surviving during COVID and what they could do to help.
And
So
what that shows for everybody who's tuned in, what that shows is if you do something out of the goodness of your heart, blessings come. You
amen.
don't have to beg for stuff, they come if you are in alignment and doing the right thing. And I'm so happy that you shared the fullness of that story because we are in a time right now that is tight. We are in a time where people are afraid, where many, many, many people are losing their jobs. And even just out of the blue. And even before this change in administration, there was a lot of contraction. When there is contraction, people often make the mistake of thinking that they have to cling to what they have and not help anybody else. And that is just not the right attitude.
It's not. My grandmother used to say, Melby, she called me Melby. She'd say, Melby, a closed hand, nothing goes out, but nothing comes in either.
That's right.
And we always have to be reminded of that. We donate every Friday 100 meals to one of the schools here in Harlem. I've been doing that for years, but we do it because, and when I first started doing it, my COO was like, Melba, that's a lot of meals. It's 100. I can't go to sleep knowing that there are kids in my community that only eat Monday through Friday because there's school lunch and school breakfast. How can I have even one restaurant and know that there are kids that are not eating and not try to do something about it and not do something about it, not try to, but just do a little bit to help. So, it's things like that. We can all do something, whether it's cooking, when you make your dinner, make an extra pot and take it to that neighbor, take an extra plate to the neighbor downstairs. It's the little things.
Of course, it is those little things. And this is what we were taught. This is like humanity.
Yes.
Basic humanity. Take care of your brother. Take care of your sister. Don't put on blinders.
Right.
And I mean, one thing is true about New York. There are so many people that you cannot take care of everyone.
Right.
So you have to make up your mind, but don't just ignore what is happening. And one thing is so interesting about Harlem, as it is changing, it has changed so much over the years, so-called gentrification. A lot of people are being displaced.
Yeah.
A lot of people who've lived here for generations are being displaced. And it like you say, looking to take care of the children who may not have a meal on Saturday and Sunday, those families are often being displaced.
Yes.
So as a leader in the community, I know that this is a topic of conversation that you have with other leaders. What can we do to help the backbone of the community?
I think that what we cannot do is turn a blind eye.
Right.
I think that's the first thing. I think what we cannot do is not see these things because we don't want to believe they're happening. I think that there's so many different things that we can do, from spending time with the senior. Seniors are very, very lonely. Go to a senior home and read to them. I don't know if you remember, my favorite girl was Miss Lucille Singletary, the marathon runner.
Yes.
That was, me and Miss Lucille would talk literally every single day.
Oh.
And it was just as much for me as it was for her. Her wisdom is something that I could only imagine to aspire to have. But being able to look at things from different points of views. So I think it's about, and also not thinking that, oh, this is too small, it won't help someone. And like you said earlier, we grew up in a time where we were, and we still have to get back to being our brothers and our sisters' keepers. So I think there's a multitude of things that we can do. Spending time, literally helping someone across the street. I was on 110th Street the other day, and a lady was lost. And she took the bus, and she said she took the bus the wrong way. And she was in the beginning stages of dementia. And she
Mm.
had left her cell phone home. And she
Oh,
said, "You look familiar. You look like a safe face." Like,
mhm.
and we started talking. And I put her in my car and I drove her home. And she lived on like 113th or 14th and Adam Clayton Powell. So it's just being a neighbor. When I grew up here in Harlem, it was a neighborhood, it was a community. As I was walking home from school, Miss Smith, who lived upstairs, was on the fire escape looking out the window with her arms crossed. you know Melba, how'd you do in school today? Did you have a math test? If I went to the corner store, Mr. Leroy knew my name. You
That's
know, how was school today, Mel? Just the little things. Harlem is a community and a neighborhood.
mhm.
And I think even though gentrification has happened, we got to get back to basics. Sometimes it's the small things of just being our brother and sisters keepers, and taking time to just have a conversation and
Yeah,
listen.
yeah. Beautiful.
Someone.
Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking right now to Melba Wilson of Melba's Restaurants. I love that she started with one and now there are five and growing. Uh, Melba, that expansion can be a real challenge. It costs a lot. You have to manage more people. Well, let's start with you have to have the vision to believe you can even do it in the first place. But what has your strategy been as it relates to expansion?
Well, Harriet, I've always wanted to expand. However, I was afraid. When you start off with humble beginnings and not having somebody else to write a check like I did, you're watching the pennies. And I've always watched the pennies and didn't really want too many other people to watch them for me. And what happens is I wish I had done this earlier. Honestly, I really, really do. I think when having conversations, it's not just about talking about the good, it's talking about the bad and the things that I wish I could have done differently. I wish I'd bought in investors and or partners. Um, for the new venture, I do have an investor, which I'm super excited about, but that's giving me the liquidity to be able to grow in the way that I want to grow and I need to grow. Robert De Niro told me a long time ago, OPM, other people's money. Okay. Um, I'm just going to throw this number out there for you. 100% of a million is a million. 50% or 51% of 100 million. Okay.
Right?
That's what we're looking at. So it's about the team. It's truly about the team. And those are not the numbers that I have with my investor, but I'm just throwing them out there as an example. It's important to have the right team. You can't do it all. You have to trust someone, and you pray that that someone is the right person to trust. So now I have a COO, I have a CFO, and a DOO, and all of those things. But in order to grow, that's what I needed.
And so you've been in business for 20 years.
Yes.
You are part of Harlem legacy royalty. Sylvia of
Yeah.
Sylvia's Restaurant, she was your aunt. Is that right?
Was, yeah. Well, she was actually my cousin, but because she's so much older, I affectionately call her aunt. Like you can never call an elder by their first name.
Absolutely
So
not.
yeah, you
And
can't.
so, but you didn't start out in the restaurant business.
I did not. I did not, Harriet. I was an actuarial. I used to proofread actuarial laws for a company called GAB, General Adjustment Bureau. How boring. Okay. How boring. And it was my aunt who called me one day, and I was throwing parties at Leviticus and
Yeah.
70 West for years. And my aunt said, "Why are you throwing the parties down there? Why don't you come up and help me up at the restaurant?" And I said, "Okay." So I came in and I said, "What do you need help with?" And she says, "Oh, well, I think it was a 30th or 35th anniversary. I have the invitation still here." She goes, "My anniversary is coming up. Why don't you plan the anniversary for me?" I said, "Okay." And so I did. And I planned a 3-day event. One was a community day. where we fed the community breakfast. The next day was the street closing where we had people jumping double dutch, and we had Lonnie Youngblood performing. It was amazing. And then the third day was a black tie event with 900 people. Where we
Wow.
put a tent outside the restaurant, connected all three spaces, and the space in the middle where we now park the cars. And it was a black tie event. And
Oh,
she was blown away. And then I worked as a cashier. Then I worked as a hostess, worked a little bit in the kitchen, worked with catering. But it's ultimately where I got the blueprint for business, for the restaurant industry anyway. And then I was approached by Robert De Niro and Drew Neaparent, who asked me to partner with them.
so okay. Just dropping those names. Like, how in the world did that happen?
Well, I was at an event at Gracie Mansion representing Sylvia's at the time, and this gentleman came over to me. Well, we were all talking about what we were gonna bring to this event at Gracie Mansion. So my aunt said she was gonna have fried chicken and collard greens. So when they got to me, and I'm the only brown girl in the room, I said fried chicken and collard greens. So this guy across the room, I was like, what is Pavarotti doing here?
Whoa.
It was Drew Neaparent. It was not Pavarotti. Famed restaurateur, Nobu, Tribeca Grill, Montrachet, and the list goes on. And he said, why don't you bring sweet potato pie? And I'm young, sassy, and from Harlem. I was like, why don't you bring sweet potato pie? Sassing him with my head going back and forth. Everyone was laughing. The event came 8 weeks later. I get a tap on the shoulder. And he said, these are for you. They were sweet potato mousse tarts. OMG. Had never had sweet potato mousse before. Bit into it. And I said to him, these are so good. They make me want to smack my mama. And he said, what? And then I had to explain what slap your mama meant. You know, like not really slap your mama, but it makes you want to become insanely crazy. That's how.
Right.
And a friend was born. And Drew came to Sylvia's, watched me work, came to the anniversary event that I planned, and invited me to Tribeca Grill one day. And he and Bob said, have you ever thought of opening your own restaurant? And the rest is history.
See, this is so important for people to see when you are doing the right thing and you are willing to talk about it, because the universe can't help you if you don't have, you're not open enough to receive it, right? And a big part of that is saying it out loud. And then people see you. They saw you. You were your authentic self. They saw you, they liked you, and believed in you enough to want to support you.
They did. They really did. And me and my big mouth at the time, Minton's Playhouse wasn't open, and I would see all the tour buses go by Minton's, and I'd go, this is the birthplace of the music known as bebop. We have all these tour groups riding around. Imagine if the place were open.
Right.
So what did I do? Instead of us opening a place in the theater district, I'm like, guys, we got to reopen Minton's Playhouse. And they were like, in Harlem? Really? Yes. So Quincy Jones was really good friends with Drew and Bob. And we were able to get Quincy Jones to come to Minton's and see it. And it wasn't open. But Claire owned it. Claire Haga, who owned the SRO, let us go in. And there was the mural from the original Minton's. Mr. Jones stood there and a tear dropped from his eye. And he said it was so special. And he recalled being there as a teenager and listening to Miles Davis perform.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Just for that experience alone.
Yeah.
You did not end up opening Minton's, did you?
We did not end up opening Minton's. That's where my relationship with David Rockwell was birthed out of that. One of my dearest friends in the world was birthed out of that event. We were really ahead of our time. And we only wanted investors of color. Nobu had just opened, and the thought process was that if this were going to be as successful as Nobu, We wanted community leaders.
Hmm.
We wanted people from the community to benefit from it. It's a blessing and a curse because a lot of people did not see the value in the Harlem community back then.
Oh, I remember, Melba, when I moved to New York, which was in the 80s.
Mhm.
I was first in Queens and then in Brooklyn, and then somebody said, "You need to come and look at Harlem." And I was immediately told, "Absolutely not. Harlem is dangerous. You can't live there." And my mother and her brother came. They said, "Wait, before you make that decision, let us come look." And they came. They said, "We want to see, where is this place where you want to live?" And they came, and it was on. I originally lived on 120th Street between Lenox and the Park,
Lennox-
between
mhm.
where, I mean, very close to where Sette Pani is, and right there. So that Sette Pani wasn't there yet, but my mother talked to everybody who was sitting on the stoop. My daughter is coming to live here. This neighborhood looks like the one I grew up in Baltimore. Please take care of my daughter. Literally, I was so embarrassed, but because I'm a young woman, like, what's going on?
On your own.
They did, and it was this stigma
Yeah.
that has lived for so long about
Yes.
Harlem. Oh no, Harlem is dangerous.
Right.
Everywhere is dangerous sometimes, but
Right.
just like you said, 114, that one block, people still don't even want to drive down that block, even though
Right.
it's much, much better. But community takes away the fear.
Totally.
Seeing people for who they are, just like your description of, you put your restaurant right there and everybody comes.
Right. Right. But I also put the restaurant there, Harriet, because I wanted to provide jobs for
Yes.
in the community. That was important to me. And also to let people know that you have a choice. There was this one gentleman, I'll never forget. He was 11 years old when I was building the restaurant in 2004. And he would go put his clothes in the laundry, in the dryer. And when they got in the dryer, he would go down the street and sell drugs. And it's a young kid. And it bothered me. So I took him in and I'm like, come here, come here, come here. Once I noticed what he was doing. And I said, what are your grades like? And I incentivized him. And some people may not like this, but he was a big sneakerhead. And, he's a single mom. I was then a single mom also. And I incentivized him with sneakers. I said, if you don't give me anything less than a C, no failing marks, I will get you any pair of sneakers you want.
Ooh.
And we would do that every semester. Every time he got his report card, he would, we would go through this little exercise, but it gave him something to look forward to. But it also gave us an opportunity to talk and let him know you don't have to go down the street. So when he turned 14, I told him I wanted him to get his working papers, and he did. And he came and he worked with us at Melba's.
Wow.
Harriet, he was the worst dishwasher ever. He broke everything. He was slow as molasses. I mean, he was BADD. But it wasn't even about him being a good dishwasher. It was giving him options and letting him know that you will have options in life.
Mm-hmm.
And selling drugs in the corner, down the middle of the block, at any stage in your life is not okay. Long story short, he always wanted to be a veterinarian, loved animals. He ended up working at the restaurant, working with us. He became a runner, then he became a server, did extremely well, went into the Army, and now he's in veterinarian school.
Oh,
I'm so proud of him. But these are the stories. We have Champ, who's in his 80s, who worked at the Flash Inn for 42 years, working with us at Melba's. And just this past Sunday, I had like 3 different, oh my God, we love Champ. We always want to come when Champ's here. We always come when Champ's here. You cannot teach that. You can't teach that, Harriet. But it's also important for me to provide a space, even though it is a business space, where our team knows that they're respected
mm-hmm.
and, more importantly, appreciated. That's important to me.
That's so important. You know, I've always had interns, always, because how I got to New York was I created 2 free internships for myself so that I would have flips. Because I went to Howard, I was an English major, but I wasn't publishing except for in the school newspaper.
Mhm.
So I had to prove that I could do what I wanted to do. So those 2 free internships that cost me, because by the way, this was before computers and
Right.
fax. I had to type the story out and take it to the place that didn't pay me so that I could get published. But I got published. And as a result, I've always had interns. I've always had people that I could teach
Yeah.
to pay it forward. And they don't have to be in school. They could be older. They could be in transition, whatever it might be, because that's what happened for me.
I
And
love
I'm so glad to hear what you're doing. You're seeing people and seeing the potential, just like it was seen in you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. There's so many people that took a chance on me
Mhm.
that did not have to. So it's my honor.
Yeah,
It's a privilege to be able to help. Otherwise, what are we doing? Are we hoarding? What are we doing? It's about legacy. And when it's all said and done, I want mine to be that I help someone else along the way. And as a Black female who's born, bred, and buttered in Harlem, what some people call the ghetto, I
mm,
call the Mecca of Black culture,
yes.
who, when I told people I wanted to cook, when I told people I wanted to open up a restaurant, it was, you can't because you're Black, you can't because you're female, and you won't because you're from the ghetto. And, and so for me, it was like, well, sounds like I'm already at the bottom, according to you. So I have no place to go but up. And I think oftentimes fear is that debilitating, paralyzing factor that stops us from
Sure.
leaping for our dreams.
Mhm.
It's
There's no question. Let me just remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are leaping right now. We're leaping with Melba Wilson of Melba's Restaurant. We just have a couple of minutes left, Melba, but I want to continue along that vein. You know, for people right now who may be afraid, who may be feeling contracted, they don't think they have enough or whatever it is that they feel they need. How can we help them refresh their thinking?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I'm a firm believer of manifestation.
Mhm.
Everything in my life, Harriet, I have manifested everything that has happened. And everything that's happened, everybody always tell me I couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't. But I did. So I believe in the power, first of all, of pen and paper. You'll always see me with index cards, or if you see me, you're going to see these things. And look, or a composition book.
I love it. Yep.
And I love the black and white composition book because it transports me back to when I was a kid and when I first started dreaming. So I always have little subtleties like this to remind me. But the power of visualization is very important. Being able to write something down means that you can see it, you can look at it, you can believe it. And what the mind will do is it will train itself to write out a plan and then to follow it. So I think that's very, very important. Writing down your dreams, writing down your goals, and knowing that no one can stop you but you. And also surrounding yourself with people that are doers, that want something out of life. It doesn't have to be the same thing that you want, but it has to be that they want something out of life. And it's also about our point of view. You know, I look at words and some people look at the word impossible and they go, oh my God, it's impossible. I look at that same word and I see I'm possible,
Ooh, that's a good one.
you know? So it's all about our point of view. You know,
Mhm.
what people look at as liabilities, I look at as an asset because I am Black. I can do this because I am from Harlem. I can do that
Mhm.
because I am a female. My thought process is different. I can multitask a lot better. So I look at what people see as liabilities. Those are assets. Those are my superpowers.
Well, embrace your superpowers. I just love it. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the new restaurant and all the things that are coming. Y'all, if you are in Grand Central Station, go check out Melba's. But, if you're uptown, here we are right around the corner. Thank you, dear. Congratulations.
Thank you, Harriette. Thank you.
And thank all of you for tuning in. I'm hungry now. I need some of that fried chicken and collard greens, don't you? Hey, until next time, have a great day and make it count.